In today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement, we're breaking down if you are single and you have a pension or $1 million or more saved. Now, you may be currently single or you may be currently married and you may be planning for something in the future that could potentially happen called the widow's penalty, which is when you go from married filing jointly tax brackets to single tax brackets. So we're going to be talking about the aftermath of that. We're going to talk about planning now if you're single, because as we know, there's going to be some disadvantages, especially around taxes. Typically, single people are going to have to pay more in taxes. So if you've watched this channel for a while, you know we talk about those who are in a higher income situation with their pension, in a higher net worth situation with their investments, and they're going to pay a boatload of taxes. Typically, the biggest expense in their retirement is taxes, and that's the thing that we need to plan for the most when this situation comes. Now, if you add single to that conversation, now you're even going to have higher taxes because your income is going to be in higher brackets, and your RMDs, your required minimum distributions from your investments, are going to be even more on top of your pension, Social Security in those higher brackets, and maybe more in Medicare premiums, higher Social Security tax, and other, more taxes that could be associated with that as well. So we're going to break this down for you today. Everything you need to know if this is you to make sure that you can plan that retirement that you've probably worked for 30 or 40 years to get to. So let's get at it.
Joe knows taxes.
Joe knows the market.
Joe knows Social Security.
Joe knows income planning.
Joe knows pickleball? No.
This is Joe Knows Retirement.
My name is Joe Schmitz. I'm the CEO and founder of Peak Retirement Planning. I've written a few books that have to do with this concept of pensions million plus, and those Midwestern millionaires is something that we also talk to often on this channel. So if this is your first time watching, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty of other content and videos out there that you can watch on this specific topic. And a lot of times in our videos, we talk about married filing jointly as tax brackets. We talk about married couples, but we want to emphasize today if you are single or if you are single in the future of what this can look like. So let's break down the first most important thing that we want to consider here is that tax brackets are lower, which is going to cause you to pay more in taxes. So we always reference the widow's penalty as you go from married filing jointly to single. And so basically what happens is your tax brackets, they get cut in half. So the higher your income is, the more you're going to have to pay taxes sooner than if you are married. And so this can be a big consideration for single. Also knowing that they have a lesser standard deduction, so the standard deduction gets cut in half as well. And the other considerations are among Medicare premium tiers. You're going to be likely to have to pay more in Medicare premiums sooner than if you were married. So those tiers get cut in half as well. And then you're also going to be more likely to have to pay tax on your Social Security because of your higher income and being single as well. And so if you are married currently and maybe planning for the single eventually, then you may want to look to take advantage of those married filing jointly rates while you can, knowing how insignificant this may be moving forward. And I wouldn't ever be the one to advise someone of this. I don't want to play matchmaker by any means, but if you are single, if you were to get married, then that would allow you to get married filing jointly tax brackets. So something to make this video a key tip there maybe, or key point. I don't want to encourage anyone to necessarily do this if that's not what they want to do, but that is always an option, out there. We're here to educate people, to show them their different options. Just know that is an opportunity to make this tax situation a little bit better, to make it a little more advantageous for you. Could be a consideration. And one of the biggest concerns that we see on taxation with people who have been diligent savers who are single is the required minimum distribution that you're now required to take out at 73 or 75, depending on when you're born. So if you're born in 1960 or after, your age is going to be 75. And so this is a big thing because if you have $1 million, let's say you're 60 years old, by the time you're 75, that $1 million will probably turn into at least $2 million, and unless you're taking large withdrawals. And if that's now $2 million, then if you take a 4% withdrawal, that's the RMD requirement when you get to that age, then you're going to have to take out about $80,000 of income just from your investments. And then you put that on top of your pension, on top of your Social Security. It's very unlikely that you'll remain in the lower tax brackets, the 10 to 12% bracket. I mean, just that RMD alone is going to push you up quite a bit. You're going to be pushed out of the standard deduction, which is only $15,000 for someone who is under 65. And so that's something that you're going to have to pay more in taxes in those scenarios. And so what we like to do with a lot of our clients is find ways to reduce that required minimum distribution, one strategy that we look at quite frequently is what's called a Roth conversion. And this is something, if you haven't done this yet and you're in this category of people we're talking about right now, highly suggest you look into this. This can save you a lot of money in taxes, especially knowing that right now tax rates are lower. So due to the one big beautiful bill, we now have lower tax rates that are permanent. And as I say, the tax code's written in pencil, so it's certainly not permanent, but it is for now until it would get changed. But just understand that now could be really advantageous times to do so. And I've always said over the last, since 2017, the last few years, there's been some really good opportunities to do Roth conversions. So understand if you haven't done those, yes, you probably have missed opportunities, but we can't change the past. We can only change the future. And so we can only do what we're going to do now. And we do have some opportunities before the end of the year to make sure we take advantage of this year. Because actually, once you get to the end of the year, you lose that opportunity to maximize that tax filing year. You can never get it back. So we don't ever want to leave money on the table. And the other consideration with RMDs is that over time, this gets worse and worse and worse. So the more your investments grow, which should happen over time, especially if you're only taking out 4%, your investments are likely to grow more than a 4% over time. So you're going to have investment growth as point number one. Point number two is that you're going to have increased percentages on that required amount you're supposed to withdraw that increases each year. So it goes from 4% and then it'll go to 5%, 6%, 7%, and it gets higher and higher. So the older you get is what happens with the majority of people is that they actually have to withdraw significantly more. And over the retirement, they may have to take out twice as much. So if they're taking out $80,000 now, it may be the case that they have to take out $160,000 later in retirement, again, over their pension, over their Social Security, which pushes them even to higher tax brackets. And a lot of people are concerned knowing where tax rates are currently, where will tax rates be in 20 years from now? And no one knows what that will look like, but that's something that can be really considered of, hey, if tax rates are probably expected to be higher based on what everyone thinks with the current debt crisis, with our current tax rates being historically low, knowing that, tax rates go up and down historically anyways. And so these are all things that we need to consider as we plan moving forward that, hey, maybe we can look at that strategy like a Roth conversion, pay our tax now, so we don't have to pay it in the future, but also now we have more control because with a Roth IRA, you don't have to do required minimum distributions from that account. That Roth can grow tax-free for your entire retirement. You're not required to take it out. It's not going to cause any tax issues in the future. You can have more clarity and control over what tax rate you pay there. So a lot of people like that concept. I always think of the seed and harvest analogy as well with the Roth IRA concept. You can pay your taxes now, or you can pay it later at higher brackets or potentially at a higher amount moving forward. So if you've got $5,000 now and it grows to $100,000, would you rather pay taxes on $5,000 or $100,000? $5,000 likely is not going to push you into higher tax brackets. $100,000 likely could. And so those are some of the considerations to think about. And that's if you're, single currently. Now, we talked about if you're married currently and planning to maybe be single in the future, then we have to make sure we take advantage of those married filing jointly rates so that when it is single, we can be more advantageous and take from the Roth at those higher tax times. And another consideration to think about if you are single goes into the conversation of what do you want to do with this wealth? We call it our purpose conversations with the client that we serve. You can only do three things with your money. You can spend it, you can gift it to loved ones, or you can give it to charities. But you can't take it with you. There's no U-Haul behind your hearse. Sometimes there's little kids running behind the U-Haul trying to get that, figured out. So you want to make sure you have a very dialed in estate plan that it specifically says where all the assets are going to go to make sure you've communicated with the family to know that there's not going to be any miscommunication here. Here's how it is and here's what you can expect. And if something bad happens, then maybe they don't inherit that wealth is something you can stipulate. So lots of considerations on that part. But what I want these people to think about further if you're in this category is you've done extremely well. If you are single with a pension, you're in the top 20, only 20% of people have a pension. And then you have $1 million or more saved as a single person, that's less than 10% of people out there. You combine those two percentages and you get that 2% club that I always talk about here, the book that it may be out by the time this video posts here. But this is something that is really important for this crowd to understand that you probably likely will not need all your money if you're in this situation. Unless you really want to spend a lot of money in retirement, then maybe that's a possibility. But for most of the clients that we work with, they can't spend enough. They are that Midwestern millionaire, the best savers and the worst spenders. They're so frugal. We have to arm wrestle clients to get them to spend money, which is a great thing. Like my mom's a Midwestern millionaire. When she goes to the store and buys blueberries, she buys them on sale because she won't buy them full price because she loves to save some money. And so if that's you, then you need to start thinking further, because at the end of the day, this will likely go to whoever's the beneficiaries on your account. And if you're not married and maybe you don't even have kids at this point, then, where's this wealth going to go? And so we like to have conversations around that to also encourage, what about gifting now to either loved ones or charity? So let's say you do have kids. They may be able to better use that money now than when you pass. They may be 60 years old when you pass and they've already accumulated all their wealth because you've taught them the discipline strategies to get to that point. Or charities, maybe it's worthwhile to see the giving while you're living so you know where it's going. Could be an awesome concept as well, instead of giving it to charities when you pass and not knowing the true value of what that was, while you're here on earth. And so those are some considerations to think about. But it is realistic to think that you likely will have more money than you think you need. And if you're the type of person that says, you know what, those aren't really that passionate to me, I don't really, want to worry about giving or gifting, well, then you better get busy spending, because again, who is it going to go to if you're no longer living? So maybe we start thinking of some really awesome experiences to do. Maybe some worldwide cruises. We have some single clients where they'll go on cruises. We had one go on a 3-month cruise around the world. We have other people that go on group safari trips in Southern Africa. But finding ways that you can connect with other people, it could be another thing that could be really valuable for this type of person there. Maybe you've lost a spouse and maybe you're maybe a bit lonely and you want to make sure you can have that, social part of your life and have those connections. And then these could be really good ideas to do so. And also you're going to be connected with people who are like-minded, people who want to be active, people who want to travel, or, whatever your hobbies may be. Maybe it's going to the gym and joining a cycling class. But trying to surround yourself around people who are like you. Joining a book club. And so that's something we always encourage people in this phase of life too, is have purpose with that retirement. If you're still working, what do you want your retirement to look like? Do you want to just continue to work part-time somewhere and just, keep giving in with your time and talents? Or maybe you want to, volunteer. Maybe you want to, live a life of leisure and do more, purposeful travel and things like that. But that's up for you to decide. But we want to make sure we have a plan as we enter in retirement to make sure we know and get to do what we want to do. And the other thing we see with people who are single is they're typically wanting to have a team help them. And the reason why is to make sure they have someone to help them make decisions. So a lot of times if you're single, you're the only one making decisions, and it can be stressful at times not knowing what to do, not being able to bounce that off of a partner to know what is the best decision. So a lot of times people in this group, we recommend they get help from a team to ensure that they can make the smart decision throughout their retirement. But also think about it this way. If that single person passes away, who is going to be there to help ensure that their wealth goes to the right beneficiaries, to ensure that this gets passed on efficiently and easily? So maybe you have some children and they're going to have to deal with it at that time. Well, it could be very valuable to have a financial planning team that can coordinate with your loved ones to ensure that everything gets done the right way. But also I would say to be able to ensure that you can get the value, whatever your values are, to ensure that they understand what those are, and to have someone there that can express that to them can be very valuable as well. And something we found very effective in this kind of realm of things is to do family meetings. So have your kids, if that's the case, and yourself and your financial planning team and estate planning, all the professionals meet together to ensure that they are understood of what's going on. A lot of people don't like talking about money, but this is something that can be very valuable to ensure that they know what to expect so that no one's fighting at the end of times, but also to ensure that they don't just get a larger lump sum of inheritance and then spend it all away. You can give them more understanding of what to do. And we see a lot of guilt around this too. A lot of people receive an inheritance and are worried and not sure what to do with it because they're thinking, what would mom do? Or what would dad do with this money? And instead of just freely being able to do what they would have wanted, their loved ones to do with their wealth. So some really hard, things to think about, but really key considerations. And you'll see some really fun conversations come out of that too. I mean, a lot of times you're able to tell your loved ones, hey, here's how much I care about you. I'm so proud of you. This is what I've been able to accumulate because of my hard work, because of the sacrifice, and I want you to know that this is my hopes for it. And it can be a really powerful moment. And a lot of times we see too that the children, as an example, will share also what their mentorship and their being there for them through all of the hard times, what that meant to them and how it's gotten them to where they are too. So some special moments that can really be created there, but you have to be intentional in making sure that happens. And a lot of people are afraid to do that, but I would really encourage people to think further about that type of setup. And so with that being said, that's all I've got on today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement. But if you're looking for more content if you're single and maybe have a pension and you're looking for more retirement planning help, I'll go ahead and have our team link over some videos here so that you can watch some more content to make sure that you're on the right track. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and we'll keep more videos coming your way. Have a great rest of your day.